Live from GCW's Broadcasting Center in New York City, it's GC News.
Good evening and welcome to GC News at 9:30. I'm Prime Lion.
626.
This is special coverage of the 2020 U.S. election. We will be covering everything involving the election along with the latest national news. For more information on our broadcasting schedule until Election Day, it's available in the description of each broadcast.
Well, let's get down to the stories. The election is only 10 days away, and Joe Biden, the Democratic nominee, is leading in some key battleground states, including some that Donald Trump, the Republican incumbent, has won. Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania are currently Biden leading states. Biden is also leading in Arizona and has slight leads in Florida and North Carolina. Donald Trump has a slight edge in Iowa, Ohio, and Georgia, states Trump won comfortably 4 years ago. Joe Biden is also ahead nationally by 7 to 8 percentage points in most national polls. Now, Democrats are still nervous because of 4 years ago when almost every poll said Hillary Clinton would win, and some of them said she'd win in a landslide. A lot can happen in 10 days.
All right, and an unprecedented number of votes have been cast so far in this election. Reuters reports that at least 50 million people have already made their voices heard. That number was far lower back in 2016. It comes as today was the first ever vote early day designed to encourage people to vote in advance of the November 3rd elections. As experts say, voting early, either via mail or in person, would lower the amount of people at the polls on the 3rd of November and lower the chances of people catching COVID-19.
Keeping on the topic of elections, we go to Bolivia, where last week they held their elections for the first time since former President Evo Morales was ousted as following claims of fraud in the previous election. The election saw the leftist party Movement for Socialism, or MAS, regain the presidency with over half of the votes. Evo could not run in this election, so Luis Arce was elected instead.
All right, and before we get to our national news, let's bring you our chief meteorologist, JSAC, for your weather.
Yes, we have had such a quite weathery day today. So many different things have been going on. I'm going to take you over to that big board over there. Let's take a look over there at the big board for our world look on the forecast right here. Here's what's going on in the world today. Anchorage, Alaska is in 37 degrees Fahrenheit. London at 52 Fahrenheit. Moscow at 43. Tokyo 59. So as you can see, it's a little chilly across the entire world, except down in the south where it's nice and hot. So yeah, there's nice and hot in the south. Over in the United States, you can see we've got some more of the same, chilly in the north and some warmer over down in the south. Let's take a look at our Doppler radar. As you can see, there's a lot of snow coming into Colorado. Which is good because there's actually some wildfires there. They're looking at hopefully that snow will stop those wildfires. Also worth mentioning, down here in Florida, Tropical Depression 28 is starting down there. It does not have a name yet. However, it is a developing story. We'll continue to follow that as we go. Currently outside in our backyard, it is 47 degrees with some winds of 8 miles an hour. Overnight tonight here in the studio and outside, of course, it'll be partly cloudy, 38 degrees, and tomorrow's sunrise will be 5:48 a.m. That's quite early. Here's a look at our 7-day forecast. Sunday will be nice and high, 55, some sun, some clouds, a little cooler than usual. Monday will have some scattered showers, 55 degrees. Tuesday, scattered showers, partly cloudy, partly sunny, who knows. It's going to be a fun day, 48 degrees. Wednesday, it'll be partly cloudy with 55 degrees. Thursday, sunny at 57. Friday, some scattered showers, partly cloudy, 45 degrees, and Saturday it's sunny at 54 degrees. That's everything we have over at the 7-day forecast. I'll toss it back to you, Kyle and Prime.
All right. Thank you, JSAC. Coming up, Wildfires rage in Colorado as thousands are evacuated.
And Illinois health officials break down during the COVID-19 briefing.
We'll be right back. Stay tuned to GC News.
Welcome back, I should say.
And welcome back to GC News. Kyle, are you going to take the next story?
Yes, wildfires have been raging in Colorado as thousands are evacuated. They continue to worsen as thousands of people are being forced to evacuate. The wildfire has been spreading incredibly quickly, growing over 100,000 acres in just the span of a few hours, leaving firefighters and people baffled. The fire continues to destroy everything in its path, and unfortunately, it has not been contained. 9 people have died, and more than 4,000 homes have been destroyed, and about 1.2 million acres of land have been destroyed. Tens of thousands have also been evacuated. According to firefighters, there seems to be no end in sight at this moment.
And as the state of Illinois experiences a COVID-19 resurgence in recent weeks, the impact of the pandemic was too much for this health official. Dr. Ezeki of the Illinois Department of Public Health left the podium for about 20 seconds during a COVID-19 briefing on Friday to recollect herself. The briefings were brought back in recent weeks due to the spike of cases. She was announcing that states' new case numbers and deaths. She also acknowledged the emotional toll caused by the pandemic, adding, quote, "I don't get to live in some COVID-free bubble exempt from the pain and tragedy of the pandemic. So I understand how pandemic fatigue is striking everyone. It's real," end quote. The governor, J.B. Pritzker, praised Dr. Ezek for her work before taking questions, saying, quote, "Since the very beginning of this coronavirus, she has had the weight of the public health of the people in the state of Illinois on her shoulders. She has worked nonstop 7 days a week, 24 hours a day," end quote.
And just coming into the newsroom, Venezuelan opposition leader Leopoldo Lopez has fled the country. The 49-year-old, who had repeatedly said that he would not leave the country, fled sometime today after this being in the Spanish embassy in Venezuela since 2019. His party, Voluntad Popular, said that the move would enable him to do more to promote freedom in the country.
And coming up, we'll talk about our community polls relating to the 2020 election.
And later, we sit down with our political analysts to discuss Thursday's second and final presidential debate. Stick around. We'll be right back. That's it! Welcome back to GC News. And it's time for our political discussion. We recently polled our community about the previous debate that occurred on Thursday. And let's take a look at our first poll. We asked our community, who do we believe won the second and final presidential debate? And the results were pretty close, actually, but former Vice President Joe Biden ended up taking the victory with 59%, with the current president ranging at 41%. Now, I want to go back to our Twitter polls. We had a massive response to our Twitter poll, so thank you so much. A little over 3,500 votes, but the majority voted for Donald Trump with an astounding 87.2%. So Prime, what do we think about these polls? Do you have any ideas of what these differentiating results could have been from?
Well, of course, Kyle. So what we saw on the Twitter poll, what we didn't expect, a lot of traction from a lot of Trump supporters. So even though these polls might have a lot of votes attached to their names, there are not accurate of the views of our community. So for that case specifically, it's not truly the voice of what people think. More of a, and a word to put it, I would say, I can't really think of a word right now, but it was more inaccurate, I would say, and like you would put it, it just doesn't reflect what, as of course what we're seeing right now, different between the poll that is on people's screens versus what we see on Twitter. But either way, I mean, they are still polls, and they obviously spoke. And if you looked at the earlier poll that was held, asking who do you currently support, even though it was 76% lead for Trump, still it was more people who had supported Biden before the election, or supposedly, well, it was less people who voted. But you still saw a more stronger lead there than you saw in the poll asking about the debate.
I think what you were really trying to put is, I think what we're trying to say is we believe that this poll may be tilted in one side, of course, due to the number of votes being unbalanced. But we highly appreciate the publicity. Thank you so much.
And moving on to the next community poll, we asked all of you, how do you believe the president performed in the second and final debate? And if you look at your screen here, wow, the majority of responses were more below 5. Looks like you can see 3 is currently the leading poll here. So not too many people in our community thought Trump did well.
Yeah, I mean, from what I understand, this debate, Donald Trump definitely improved. He definitely improved on his patience, because he, for those who aren't aware or weren't aware, if either candidate spoke for more than their allotted time, then their microphones would be muted. And I think the president knew exactly what was going on, so he was able to pull himself back a bit, but at the same time had no filter towards the vice president.
Yes, and I do agree, and I want to add to that point. I believe his defense mechanism, or what he was trying to do, like he did in the first debate, was really play guard and play strong. But I think this time he let Joe speak. Well, he had to. But when he let Joe speak, I believe he was trying to let Joe almost sort of self-erupt or ruin himself without having to bombard him with anger and yelling. So I think what we saw on Thursday was a more toned down, but I think he still, even without yelling, even without going at him every second, he still got his point across. Trump did, and we've seen the reaction with people, how with fracking and Joe Biden's response on that. He's starting to lose a little support because of his views on fracking and oil and so forth and so on. And realistically, I don't know, because already now, as we reported earlier, over 50 million people, or around that total, have already voted. So realistically, it's not, these people who might have been affected or are thinking differently may have already voted, and it's too late to retract their votes and change it if they did feel different about Biden after the debate. But thoroughly, really, the debate doesn't sometimes change people's opinions or how they think of a candidate. So realistically, I'd say it's almost like a flip toss, and like this entire election is.
Yeah, so we're gonna talk about one more poll in this segment, and then when we get to our next segment, we'll finish up the rest of these polls. Now, obviously, we wanted the people to know how they thought former Vice President Joe Biden performed in the second debate, and on the screen, an overwhelming majority said 8. 8, 10, quite a bit in the middle, and we had actually quite a bit in the 1 category. This was, I think, with this rate, with this debate, Joe was able to convey what he thought, and unfortunately, some of the things people have asked for, he never really responded to. But I can kind of see why people would vote this highly of Joe Biden, because he went after, in the first debate, Donald Trump went after, his son Hunter and his alleged business dealings. Leaking potentially damaging information about his son and his business practices in China and his daughter's potential China practices. This was definitely an improvement for Biden in some sort of sense, but he was able to, I guess, the president was able to kind of let his guard down and get defensive, and then he said what Donald Trump wanted Biden to say. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to have a special roundtable with our political analysts, and we're going to finish up our show. We're going to find out who we think might potentially take the ticket to the White House. Stick around.
Welcome back to GC News. Tonight we have our political analyst, JSAC and Johnny Zillion, sitting over there right across from us. JSAC and Johnny, what do you have for us?
Hello, thank you more on the final presidential debate because the final presidential debate did definitely see some influence. It didn't really influence a lot of people, but it has brought us some. I can't really find the word. Can you explain it? Can you explain what really is important about this final presidential debate? What new things did it bring to the table?
I mean, this presidential debate is probably what the first presidential debate should have been. This was much more like a civilized debate. There was less of the 160-some interruptions there were during the last presidential debate. I feel a little sad the fact that we're only going to have 2 presidential debates this year. However, usually by this point in the political process, a lot of voters have already made up their minds. They've already voted with early voting in some states, mail-in ballots, all that sort of thing. A debate this late in the game may not necessarily change much when it comes to voters' minds. However, I do think that the debate performances by both candidates was rather strong. Anyone who was leaning on the fence for either side may have had just enough to tilt one way or the other if they haven't voted yet. I do
agree on the most part because it is the final presidential debate was very late into the argument. But here's the thing: I feel that there were a few changes here because a lot of Trump supporters are talking about Biden banning fracking, and well, here's the thing: because like Biden has been, but a lot of Trump supporters have been proving the fact that he's been banning fracking. Now, I feel like it's one of the reasons why Biden is sort of leaning down because the main message about Trump is bringing back the jobs. Like his main campaign slogan. I mean, it's "Make America Great Again," but he's also talking about how many jobs he can bring back into the economy. And it's honestly kind of weird to be honest because. Biden has been. He can stumble a few phrases. Like he can say a few words where he just slips off.
Johnny,
Biden has been on a very slippery slope.
Johnny.
Yes, that's my name.
Yeah, I know you're going on to like a little tangent here, but I was actually just reminded that we actually have a community poll. How did and essentially make you feel? We took a poll of the community, and if you look at it, you can see a lot said either neutral, more informed, or slightly informed, which is a good thing. A debate is, of course, it's supposed to be where you look for the candidates' information from the candidates themselves, and that is a very good thing. But if we go over to another community poll, did the second and final presidential debate influence your opinions about the candidate? If you look, a resounding 69% said no. And that is just how these debates are, how these debates work, how this late in the stage, you've already made up your mind. There are still some undecided voters, of course, but I truly think this election may have already been decided. Unless, of course, we get some breaking news within the next 10 days now, that something big has happened on either side. This election has pretty much been made up in the minds of most voters. A lot of Trump supporters in 2016 have already made up their mind they're voting for Trump again. Some people are saying, no, they're going to vote not Trump. Some people are saying, yes, they're going to do this, yes, they're going to do that. A lot of opinions, when it comes down to it. These debates really don't change the opinions of a large majority of Americans. A lot of people have already made up their mind. A lot of people we're going to see some big results coming out in November 3rd. So with that, I'm going to toss it back to Prime and Kyle at the desk.
Please get the camera on Prime.
Please get the camera on Prime this entire time.
What could you be possibly talking about on live television?
I wonder what Prime's talking about.
I wasn't speaking about a thing.
I have evidence to
that's fake news.
Wow. Well, I don't know.
All right, so This is going to be it for tonight's broadcast. But if you would like,
it.
yeah, this is it.
Oh,
Remember to check the description for this broadcast to find our schedule for the GC News 2020 election news coverage. You can check out our next broadcast, which will be on the 28th, which is this upcoming Wednesday. And of course, on Saturday, Halloween for part 3. And then the day before Election Day, November 2nd. And then Super Tuesday, Election Day for longer coverage. And especially, this will be a very important night. And of course, the day after, where we give our reactions to the results. For Prime, for JSAC, for Johnny, and for the rest of our team, my name is Hursk26. We will see you later. Bye.
Live from GCW's Broadcasting Center in New York City, it's GC News.